Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, Earl, doing okay? How are you?
Good, good. One of the things that I think we want to just have a conversation on here is the current climate of the state of the nation right
Yeah,
now
yeah,
in regards to it. I think a lot of folks are really concerned about what's going on and the fear of losing their job, the fear of the economy prices going up and things like that.
yeah. It's a lot of uncertainty
Yeah, it
right now.
is,
I
and
think
it's
that's what's scaring a lot of people. They don't know what to do.
it is, seems that way, and people feeling like they're being laid off,
Yeah.
and some people are experiencing being
Hmm.
laid off from jobs that they have been dedicated to, and just suddenly all of a sudden without that.
Yeah.
And so we sort of want to just kind of spend some time with discussing and talking about that because I know a lot of you out there are experiencing,
Yeah.
those fears of what am I going to do, how I'm going to do this, and how I'm going to navigate,
Yeah.
how I'm going to just make ends meet. And we're watching things sort of, in a sense, feel like they're spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things too that, when we look at this and we start to think about, sort of the context of what's happening in the country, I think people are wanting to know what can be done.
Yeah.
You know, what is it? Our congressional members are doing to sort of stave off this tidal wave. I think it's probably feeling like that. And we're saying not a recession coming, but you kind of look at the inflation and feel like the prices of
Yeah.
things are, and people that are on the lower end of the spectrum having a really tough time sort of making ends meet. What do you think?
Yeah. It's tough, man. I mean, it's funny because you think back through the COVID years
Yes,
and what we all went through then. It was again a struggle,
it was.
a huge struggle. We were a massive amount of layoffs, right?
Absolutely.
Because everything was shut down. Same fears that we kind of all went through, right? Same fears of just kind of the what is going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think I think at least with the COVID times, the we knew kind of what the enemy was, right? It was
Right,
COVID.
right. It was.
It was COVID. It was something that was going to shut down businesses, right? You could not operate now.
We didn't know how long it was going to be.
We just didn't know how long. We didn't know the time frame of it, but we all knew kind of, hey, this is what's driving that.
Mm-hmm.
And in this time, I think it's a little different because
Yeah.
it's not a known factor of what it is, what is driving this, right? It's economic pressures from government policies and things like
Right,
that,
exactly.
and then it's
The isolation. I think we're feeling. I think the nation is sort of feeling like it's being isolated from
yeah.
from our allies and folks that we've been working with. And I think at the
Yeah,
same time, we're seeing that everything is going to get better. And I think that a lot of the folks were feeling like, okay, with the new administration coming into place, that we would start to see some relief. And I don't know if it was just a sort of a quick fix sort of mindset,
Well,
you know?
I think too, you got to think about the election itself, right? And we're not going to get
Right.
political on this. All I will say is there were, promises that were
Right,
probably
right.
made or were expected of an administration when they came in,
Right.
and we the writing was there that most people understood. Well, at least most people. When I say most people, maybe it was me or you
Mm-hmm.
understood that fixing those things was something that was maybe beyond what a promise could be, and it would take time to do
Of
that.
course. Yeah.
Whereas I think some certain people had the impression of, okay,
Instant.
if this is going to, yeah, exactly. This is going to happen. This is why we'll vote this way. Instantly, when that person takes over, the new party takes over, whoever the new administration takes over, instantly you'll start seeing reduction in cost of living or whatever.
Right. I think that was sort of what
right.
people thought was going to.
People thought that, and that might have been a way that that it was presented as well.
Mm-hmm,
I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't need to get into that piece of it, but the realistic or what we all know is that bringing down prices of goods, services, whatever it is, takes time.
It does.
And it's not an instant overnight thing. And I don't think anyone who is really thinking through this thought it would be instant, but I think people had that expectation that it would be instant because of the promises that certain, the administration. And again, this was a political, it's an election, right?
Right.
If I'm in, I'm not going to, if I'm trying to win an office,
I'm going to
say things that give me a vote.
Exactly. And
if that gives me a vote, and then I could come back and say, well, I tried to do something about it and it didn't work. Different story, right? Like, that's, again, however you want to spin it is however you want to spin it. But you got to put the effort to do it. And I think a lot of people are now feeling that that effort might not have been made or will be made, just with the way of the uncertainty everything's going today, right? It's so uncertain with, just like you said, the isolationism.
Yeah, I mean, we're starting to see all these things that, in a sense, that we've sort of taken for granted, suddenly being sort of diminished. And I think that sort of adds to the fear of what folks are experiencing around here. And so then you look at it and you say, well, we once believed the government was supposed to be for the people, by the people. But it seems that it doesn't have that kind of flair that we've all come to expect on the U.S. landscape. And so now we're looking at potential not only for tourism to be affected by that, but then you're starting to see a lot of people now feeling sort of like, this is not a country that we came to believe was this foundation, this great country. And so now we're watching in a sense of desperation to see when is this going to rectify itself. Now, the current government states, well, we got to go through some pain. Now, that was not indicated in the process of the election because you don't want to focus on here. You've got to.
You don't want to focus on bad things. You want everything to be rosy and peachy and
right and
great outlook. And hey, I'm going to do this when I'm in office. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make sure that your prices come down, that your income goes up, right? Like all these things.
And if you think of the previous administration saying sort of the same thing, and then when you start to watch the cost of living going up, and I'm not able to make ends meet because, and I'm not getting an increase in pay to sort of offset that. And then all of a sudden you see the next administration who promises, well, we're going to eliminate what the previous administration has done to the country, and we're going to eliminate that. And then you find out then in the over process of the aspect of what they're doing is not only now bringing about even more discomfort, and now is being told, and Americans are standing around thinking, well, wait a minute, this was not sort of what we were expecting. I remember hearing one guy say, I think he worked with the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, and he had lost his job because they had cut the agents down. And he said that he did not expect the current administration. He thought they were going to come in and make changes, but I think they were going to go through and start to comb with a fine-tooth comb and he said, I didn't expect my job to necessarily be one that was going to be disassembled rather. And I thought, well, I think a lot of folks are feeling that here, saying, well, I did my job. I've done my job. I've done it well. And to suddenly now have that be diminished sort of gives them the feeling like no one's off the chopping block, so to speak. And you say, well, I've been dedicated and so on. And so that adds to this level of fear that probably the country hasn't really seen since I can't remember when you started to think about that, and you start to think, and I remember a recession back in earlier administrations when it looked like the kingdom, in a sense, was falling down around us, and everything was going into chaos.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of businesses were uncertain about how they were going to navigate through this recession, because when you start to diminish, consumer spending, because consumers can afford to spend because they're out of work, and then on top of that, they don't feel confident that the tomorrow is going to be any brighter.
Right.
And that's sort of what I think it seems like we are experiencing a time of turbulence that we haven't experienced. And I think what the current administration is, their perception of saying we're going to turn this ship around. But when you have such a massive ship that has been moving in this water for as long as it has been, to turn it on a dime is not realistic. Yeah. And I think a lot of economists are apprehensive about the plan that's in place right now. Yeah. And folks are now standing back wondering, okay, how long is this going to be? Because a typical change in this is something that would have to be implemented now. And it's a process that you continue to work on without it causing such a dramatic change in the way that things are being done, the way people are spending, the confidence that the consumer would have in tomorrow. Right now, everybody's feeling a bit of discomfort as to what the uncertainties are.
Yeah, well, I mean, totally agree. And 100%, like, just personally speaking for us, right? It's like I am watching every penny now, right?
Well,
I was watching every penny before. Now it's like double scrutinized.
Right. You have to.
You have to be ready for anything, because you don't know. And everyone has to just be ready for that, right? Because it really is uncertain times. Like the analogy you made of just, hey, it's gotta, you can't turn a ship on a dime. Like that's just it, right? Like we all know that you have to change to move forward sometimes. And I think there's certain ways you can do that more effectively.
Right.
Than burning it down. And starting right, because then who you think about this is you're burning it down, and who's going to be left
right
to build it back up?
Because everyone now is in a state of flux, and just trying to survive.
We're just trying to survive, and then who builds this back up? It's going to be who is it? It's this administration. It's going to be people with an extreme amount of money already. Right. Who are going to be building this society back up into what they want.
In the process, and I think another aspect of that fear is, you look at our military, our veterans who basically, and the ones that have serviced, and then they're now feeling kind of like that their security, in a sense, or well-being is being diminished as well. So you've got this other level of fear that is sort of pervading all of this context of what's happening all around right now. And so that sort of leaves the ones that are standing out here that are still in the forefront of harm's way, sort of wondering, well, wait a minute, what do I have to go back to if everything is changing? And again, that's where I'm thinking that the process that's happening is okay. Let's say it's a good idea to say, okay, we need to have our partners, equal the playing field in the tariffs that are being levied, but to go into an extreme to say that I'm going to do everything suddenly at once. I think that's what the fear in the business sector is feeling. The stock market is showing that sort of context, and it's dropping, and we've seen it drop on various turbulent moments, and to see that, and I saw an economist say that they said, we've seen it drop. They said it's risen, it rose so high after COVID because it did a drastic drop around COVID. And they said that even the drop right now doesn't take us back to the level where COVID. So they sort of justify that kind of action. And I don't know if that's any consolation to the consumer who's out there having a tough time now, who maybe is without a job and trying to figure out, where I'm going to go for my next, that kind of thing. So all those things start to hit Americans.
Yeah.
Whether you're, whatever ethnic, black, white, brown, yellow, green, blue. It is one of those things where now we're sort of trying to figure out what's coming next.
Yeah.
Is this a remake of the nation? Is it a reset? Are we leaving ourselves vulnerable to outside adversaries? Those kinds of things. That is another aspect that hits this fear button at the same time. And so I don't know, I've pondered, what is it, how is it that we could navigate through this? What is it that could be said that would sort of give people some sense of hope that would say, okay, well, we are going through this moment, but we are going to get through it.
Yeah.
The sense of what the true American spirit has always been in really tough moments, that we dig deep inside of ourselves to really come through this. What is it about our leadership that will invigorate and inspire us to drive towards that? What is it that triggers that true American, I guess probably the lack of words, dynamic that gets us to dig deep into the mire of ourselves?
Yeah.
That's what we're sort of feeling like we don't have that anymore, is the temperament.
And just thinking about, right, everything's fresh and new right now, and we're going to have to navigate through it. But you think back of, other recessions that we've lived through.
Yes.
And you just have to think back, how did we navigate through those times as well? Because we've done it before.
Yes.
We'll do it again. And this won't be the last one in our lifetimes, right?
No.
We're going to have another one. Might have another one after that.
I think the one that this one makes is when we talk about, the sort of, I guess maybe the terrorists that are coming across the board. Typically, in a recession, it's not.
I think
relegated.
I understand what you're saying. I think for me, it's like you're self-inflicting this upon yourself, right? It's self-inflicting.
Right. It feels like
Why
that. I think people
doing this to ourselves when there's a different path, maybe a different path or a different way
to implement that
without doing it, right? So, for instance, again, the tariffs.
Yeah.
In my view, right? Again, this is my own view, and it's not political or whatever. It's just it feels lazy.
So,
meaning you just, let's blanket everything and make everything a percentage tariff because I'm lazy. I don't want to know what China tariffs the U.S. specific U.S. products at. Mm-hmm. What does Vietnam or any Southeast
just blanket everything?
Just blanket everything because I don't want to look and see what they really do to us and how we can and how we need. Where is the real imbalance? Mm-hmm. It's China does what did they say? 60%, 90, whatever the dumb number was, and then now we're going to do 30%, right? It's like you're lazy, man. It's because that's how you want to run. You're lazy. So you don't want to look.
So as Americans, are we truly this? I mean,
no, it's not, right?
I mean, I always thought of us as being pretty intelligent in our approach to world issues and how we were and how we, absolutely. And so here we are, we're looking at this, and I think this is the thing that makes this recession a little bit more apprehensive compared to others. And I've been through several in my lifetime to see those things. And you kind of think, like you said, you saw the job market turn and so on, but then you coming through that and people start focusing on the brighter days ahead. Right now, I think it's difficult for people
it's harder to
see that being that all of these things we see, look, the FBI taking these kinds of things. We see the IRS being, you see the school, the education, you see all these different things. And we hear that there's unnecessary spending in these operations. Okay, but there's a way that you go through to sort of work on those policies instead of saying, okay, well, we're going to blink this thing out.
Yeah, just snuff it out.
Everything. And
it's, again, being lazy. It's lazy.
And so I think that's part of
it's being lazy, right? Like, oh, well, this is what we heard, right? This is why we want to do this. Get rid of it. We don't need it anymore. Get rid of the whole thing.
Yeah.
But maybe there's portions of it that we do need.
And those people,
take it out, right? Like, just doesn't matter to me. Now I can say I've cut hundreds of thousands of jobs. I've saved the government billions and billions of dollars, right? But yet, again, you go back to, like, I think of the term trickle down, economics, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going to happen, because now you take away certain things at the top. It always trickles down at the bottom, and bad things. It's not good things that are going to trickle down, right? It's bad things that will trickle down.
And I think that's sort of the apprehension that is felt here in the I guess I would say in the American streets across the country.
Yeah,
is that we're looking at what we're thinking is, as our democracy as we once knew it at stake,
right.
And so those things bring about fear. So people start to crunch up and they start to feel like, I can't, spend, I got to save, I got to protect, I've got to, and so when we go into that kind of posture, we only bring about more of that energy and that kind of position and so the world is watching now, unlike it probably has done before. They're watching to see what this great nation that once seems to have stood as a beacon is now sort of seeing the lights of it dimming, and the American people standing by saying that we once could travel to Canada or to Mexico, and now we sort of feel like, all of these policies now are preventing us from having a freedom, along with our isolating ourselves from our neighbors. And so those things started to build the kind of fear, unlike probably anything that we've seen as a nation. I mean, we've seen troubled times. I mean, the civil rights movement and so on. I mean, we've seen those things, and we thought at one point as a nation we were coming through that, even though those were dark periods of this time. We thought, okay, but now I think people feel like we're dimming the prospect of prosperity. Now, that's a scary thought, because it used to feel that if you had a great idea in America and you were willing to work hard, you could achieve that.
American dream.
The American dream.
American dream.
And now people are feeling like it's getting further and further away, and the young people that are coming on here are starting to feel disenchanted with the fact that my parents worked hard and I don't want to do that anymore, and this is just not the way that it is. And that's where you start to lose the what is it, the marrow of its context, the foundation of the nation.
I mean, like you said, it's you don't just look at the economics of it, right? Because I think that's what we were focusing on. It was really the uncertain times, really economic uncertainty, right?
Correct.
With certain things happening now with the world is going to be pushing back now, right?
Yeah,
like
that
is something that is also different, is that the world gets to push back now, and
where are we standing?
Are we as relevant as we think we are?
Well, I've heard different stories and different things that have popped up, and I think again that adds to the context of the uneasiness that everyone is feeling in this country right now.
Right.
And
right.
I don't, you could be Democratic, Republican, Independent, whatever. Everybody seems to be feeling that same sort of uncertainty right now as to what's going on around. And I know that the only solace, and I know this may or may not ride with some of you, but I sort of say, well, only God knows. And we used to be a country. We used to be a country that used to state, in God we trust. And we found ourselves, in a sense, far from that.
Yeah.
And so you ask yourself, if you're in the water and you're drowning, who's going to throw a lifeboat or lifeline to save you if everything is in chaos?
Yeah.
Do
No
I
one.
drown?
No one.
Am I? Exactly.
You got to kick.
And so in that, I think we're coming to a place now where even if they're reset of the nation, the Constitution, whatever, all this other stuff that made America the nation where everyone looked at it as that freedom, despite all the drug trades and all this other stuff that has been going on around it, we still stood as a beacon for those who really wanted the freedom.
Yeah.
And so now it's like that has sort of diminished itself. The light has sort of
That portion
dimmed.
is going. Yeah.
And so people are feeling that sort of uncertainty as well.
Yep. The democracy, uncertainty of kind of what is happening in our nation. And I mean, you can just see that with,
you look at your kids and your grandkids that are coming up and you say, well, what is it going to look like for them?
Yeah.
What is this going to be? Can we regenerate think about it. If we diminish our school system, how do we stay competitive on the global scale, especially now that we have been and are isolating ourselves from our allies? How are they going to feel like they want to continue sort of to, work with us? So all these feelings right here are some of the things that sort of causes the uncertainty in the minds of the American public. And I look at it, and I think the only solace I can think of is that I just got to trust that God is going to get us through this.
Yeah.
I mean, for those that believe and don't believe, whatever, but
we got to keep pushing forward, right? I mean,
that's the thing. I think
if it's something that we don't like, then we have to stand up for what we want, right?
Well,
and that's the hard part.
That's a good statement, though, because if you think about in the Revolutionary War, when we were against the odds of it, here's this nation in its founding days or years or whatever, they were willing to put their lives on the line for the freedoms that were branded for this country. We still saw that in our military. And to sort of demean that and to say that all of this now is all for naught is sort of, I would say, sort of heartbreaking for the ones that are here who've lost, loved ones who have, shed their blood for the freedoms that we all experience. And in outside nations looked at that and were inspired by the U.S. leadership saying that we were not perfect, but we were working towards a perfect union.
And we wanted all those nations, all those people from those nations wanted to come into the U.S.
Absolutely.
Because they wanted to be part of that.
They wanted to be part of that.
And that's what strengthened the U.S. is the diversity, the cultural diversity that we had, what we had to go through with civil rights, what we had to go through with everything, right, on this stuff.
And so
Native American, everything, right? And so that's what strengthened the U.S. And why is it that the U.S. was so powerful?
I think that right there hits at the core of who we are. And I like to believe that we still are that, even though I know a lot of folks out there feel like this is no longer. And I would like to say that it is. I think you said it. We have to keep looking forward. We have to keep trudging. We have to do what the early ones that went before us were willing to do.
Stand up,
sacrifice, stand up, and
That's
sacrifice.
If it's wrong, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Stand up, right?
But I believe that we will find that brighter moment again, sort of as you said earlier, that we will get through this. We're going to feel the crushing of it, because this is not something, when you make such a drastic move like this, it's not something that's going to take next year or the year before, after that or so. It's going to take a while before we really actually see the turnaround. And I think that's the fear that sort of hits most of us currently, is how long is this going to be? Because I was hoping that once the new administration got in, we'd start to see a change. And I think that is sort of
it's a change.
It is a change.
It's a change. It's
but
just
the change that was expected is not the one that everyone is experiencing now.
Yeah. It's a burn it down change.
Yes.
That's the difference,
and
right?
That's a part that doesn't seem quite American to most folks, is that we didn't burn the country down to rebuild it. We said we will put sweat equity into it to make it do this.
And we should be building upon building upon building upon building, right? You know, and we can get into all this, but why are we burning it down? Like there's other, like it leaves so many different other questions, right? Why are we burning it down? Who's going to build it back? Like all these other things that I think, you know, you have certain people in certain positions that want to do this because of whatever motivations they've got, money, power, whatever they got, whatever they want. But you and I and the regular people will suffer.
Yeah, I think that's the part of it. But I would like to say that in the uncertainty of all of this, that understand that the true American grit is enduring.
Yep.
And we do whatever, we have to do to survive and make it work.
Yep.
On behalf of my ancestors, we've seen, a dramatic change from what it used to be for, my family, my folks, and those before. And yet we had so much hope that by the time we got to the 21st century, we would see a complete remake of everything.
Yeah.
And I know that it seems disheartening to see what's happening today, but be not disheartened, but be determined.
Yeah.
I would say that in this uncertain time.
I mean, everyone's going to go through it, and everyone's going to go through it together now. So I think there's solace in that, hopefully, where it's not just a few people that are going to be hurting. It's kind of everyone. Yeah. We'll find light at the end of the tunnel, like we always do.
That's what I believe is going to do, and we're going to, and I believe that when it's all said and done, that we will have a better glimpse of ourselves as humans on this global journey. I think we will.
But if anyone out there is suffering today, right, hang in there.
Yes.
We understand. We feel the pain.
Throw that out to you and let you know.
We're here to support, right, with whatever we can do. Because at the end of the day, we're all humans.
That's it.
And we're just here to support each other. That's all we need.
Thank you for joining us. We're going to conclude here, and join us on the next episode of the Lew Perspective.
Just follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and TikTok.
He got them all.
I got them all. All right.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.